First off, I want to say I wasn't going to watch the Joker movie until I was able to see it for free because I don't believe in giving money to my enemies. And while sometimes it's hard to avoid this, it's pretty easy to do when it comes to just not watching a movie at the theater. So I didn't expect to take a look at this movie for a while, but I got the opportunity to see it for free. So I strapped in and I watched it. And I realized I'd seen this movie several times before. Now, what I mean by this is there is absolutely nothing original about Joker. In fact, it parallels other, mostly Robert De Niro movies so closely, I almost wonder if that's why they felt like they had to cast him in the film, in a part that really didn't suit his very limited acting range. I mean, it's almost like they knew if they didn't include him, people would just be talking about how they just picked different scenes from movies he'd been in and rammed them together in something they could trick people into watching, which is exactly what they did. In fact, you might be wondering how I can review this film at all without access to the footage, and it's easy. Even though the trailer is only a few minutes long, I can easily fill in all the blanks with movies that Joker is a carbon copy of. So with that in mind, let's get started. The movie starts out with Joker at his crappy job where he works with other misfits who are likely children of single mothers and, because of their lack of a positive male role model for guidance, are just kind of failing through life. We see how shitty and dangerous Joker's job is when on the street, doing his job, he's attacked by a gang of young diversity. Next, we see Joker laughing uncontrollably, like a maniac. Okay, this clip is from Cape Fear, and it doesn't really count, but it still looks and sounds remarkably like Joker, so still funny. I'm leaving it in there. So Joker is talking to his government-issued life coach of color and tells her that the things are getting crazier. People are getting tense. He asks her to give him more medication, courtesy of the state, no doubt. After getting his medication, he stares out at the decaying city, disgusted. He tries to have a moment with a young black kid on the bus, but he's yelled at by the kid's presumably single mother. And I'll say one thing about this. I've heard people say that this movie is an indictment of single mothers. And as with the other good things people are trying to read into this film, it's not that it's an indictment of single mothers. It's just that it's, for the first time, maybe in a long time, it's not portraying all single mothers as strong, independent women. There's no commentary. It's just the absence of the leftist propaganda that many viewers are so used to hearing, they're so conditioned, they're expecting it, that when it's not there, they think the absence of this message is somehow a message in their direction. But obviously that's not true at all, and we'll see more of that. So Joker laughs uncontrollably and hands the mother on his bus a card that explains he can't control his manic laughter, and it's a nervous condition. So throughout the movie, he just kind of laughs hysterically for no reason at inappropriate times. He walks the streets slowly, wading through the filth of the city, surrounded by the chaos and police sirens. He comes home and talks to his aging single mom who he lives with and is living off of disability. She talks about writing letters to Thomas Wayne, who you could say is kind of a Donald Trump figure in the film. He's a right-wing billionaire tycoon, and he's running for mayor of Gotham. They sit down and begin to watch a late-night show, and this is when the film switches from kind of mirroring Taxi Driver to incorporating elements of The King of Comedy. The King of Comedy is a film where Robert De Niro plays a failed comic, just like Joker, who is obsessed with a late-night talk show host, just like Joker. Joker watches the show on television and imagines that he's in the studio, just like in King of Comedy. And the host of the show loves him, exactly like Robert De Niro's character in King of Comedy would do. He invents a scenario in his head where the talk show host wants to be the father he never had. I mean, it's very identical to King of Comedy. Next, the film Joker switches back to mirroring Taxi Driver. He's at work and his boss is blaming him for getting jumped and telling him that any damages will come out of his paycheck. While coming home, he meets another black single mom in the elevator, but this one he's attracted to. When he tries to flirt with her, he kind of just comes across like a psycho, essentially just like Robert De Niro's characters in Taxi Driver and in The King of Comedy. They both have love interests and they both look like psychos when they approach them. So because his job is obviously dangerous, one of the guys he works with gives him a gun. He goes home and begins to practice and play with his new gun, just like the scene in Taxi Driver where Robert De Niro is doing kind of the same thing. He then begins to stalk the woman he met on the elevator, following her around like a creep, just like Robert De Niro's character in Taxi Driver. As I mentioned before, Robert De Niro's characters in Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, they're obsessed with women, but the women see them as too unbalanced to have a relationship with. This is the exact same dynamic that exists with Joker. A woman he's obsessed with, but he's too crazy to connect with. The only difference is in Joker, the added twist, if you want to call it that, is that Joker is only imagining that he's with this woman. So he's only fantasizing about a black single mom as a love interest. Imagining that she eventually dates him. And the audience is led to believe that that's what's going on. And based on, quite frankly, what I've heard some people say about the movie, some people still don't get it and think that they were actually in a relationship. But no, he's fantasizing that she finds him funny and quirky and fantasizing that they go out a couple times. But then later in the film, it's revealed, just like with Robert De Niro's characters, he's too crazy and unbalanced, and there's no way at all that she would be attracted to him. She's repulsed. She's terrified of him the second she's around him long enough to find out that he's crazy. Now, in the next scene, I don't actually need any footage of a movie because I can just use a story that really happened that we're all familiar with. The Jussie Smollett story. You know, Jussie Smollett and his MAGA country fantasy. That's essentially the blood libel that Joker perpetrates on the same people that lined up to go see the movie, by the way. You see, Joker is coming home from work late at night. He's still in his clown makeup. He's depressed. And then 3 white guys wearing MAGA hats. Okay, I'm kidding about the MAGA hats, but they might as well be wearing MAGA hats. It's 3 white guys wearing suits, hassling a woman on the train because, you know, as Jussie Smollett has taught us, there's nothing more dangerous late at night than a well-dressed white man. So the well-dressed upper-class white men start to violently attack Joker for really no reason, you know, as wealthy white people are known to do. You know, always riding on trains late at night, assaulting people. And Joker takes out his gun and kills the 3 kids in MAGA hats. I'm sorry, in suits. So after killing the 3 white guys, Joker fantasizes about having sex with his imaginary black girlfriend. And then we find out that the 3 white guys not wearing MAGA hats worked for Donald Trump. I'm sorry, Thomas Wayne. I know, right? Totally based. So Joker then tells his government-issued life coach of color that the people are starting to resist. He uses that word, and that is the word that's printed on the signs of the people in Antifa garb protesting around the city. He's part of the resistance against these white people not wearing MAGA hats. And so are the other dregs of society just like him that live with their single moms on disability. Next, we see how bad Joker is at stand-up comedy. His nervous laughter and his terrible jokes unsettles the audience, but he's too out of touch, too insane too disconnected from reality to notice that, and instead he thinks his imaginary black girlfriend is laughing at all his jokes. So after his imaginary date, he comes home and he finds out that his mother has been writing letters to Thomas Wayne / Donald Trump because she claims he is Joker's father. So he decides to go to Wayne Manor, to claim what is his, but is told by the butler that his mother is just crazy and that he's adopted. Donald Trump is not his father, and she's not even his real mother. So before he can confront his maybe fake mom about this, she has a stroke, and then she's taken to the hospital. While Joker's there, we find out that the talk show host that he was obsessed with earlier in the film, like in King of Comedy, is playing a clip of Joker's terrible stand-up comedy performance. But not because he thinks it's funny, but because they're ridiculing him. It's like a viral, cringy video. So in addition to this assault on his ego, Joker ends up losing his job because he brings the gun that his friend gave him to a children's hospital, and while he's on the job, it falls out of his clown pants, and it freaks out, obviously, the hospital, and they fire him. This pushes him a little further over the edge, as well as a trip to the institution where his mother apparently was locked up. He goes there to find out if the story of him being adopted is true, to get more information about his history. And he finds out that it's very possible he was adopted, although they kind of put in a sliver of ambiguity in there, although, it doesn't really matter. Either way, he finds out that his mother used to date violent men and was turned on by men that would abuse him and beat him. He finds out that his nervous laughter is a result of these injuries from this abuse. But again, the film doesn't prosecute his mother for her crimes. It's a throwaway flashback scene. It doesn't even show the violence against him. The film dedicates more time to the evil, not wearing MAGA hat white guys on the train, focuses on that as the real problem, is that what has turned him into Joker, and doesn't even have a second of celluloid depicting the evil his mother and her boyfriends were perpetrating on him. It's just a flashback scene of her talking about it in a padded cell. So this idea that this movie is somehow prosecuting the evil of single moms is definitely overstating things. So Joker loses his mind even more. Eventually he goes full-on Day of the Pillow on his maybe mom and kills her in the hospital. He also kills the man from work that gave him the gun because presumably he sees him as a reason for some of the troubles he's been in. But now Joker has been invited on that late night talk show because that clip of him being a terrible comedian on stage has kind of gone viral. And so the host wants to invite him on the show and, basically make fun of him. And Joker, understanding this, still wants to go on the show. Joker has decided to teach the cruel world a lesson. He looks as though he's probably going to bring his gun with him to the show and commit suicide on live television. So he practices his entrance onto the show at home again and again, mirroring a scene from King of Comedy, same sort of thing. And he shows up to the show wearing full Joker makeup. Now here's where I wish I could play footage of the film, because it's hard to really explain this without seeing it for yourself. And I know it's not just me. There's something decidedly feminine about this new Joker that's in his full makeup, that's on the show, that's about to go in front of the crowd. I mean, he prances around when he's announced. Everything about his presence just seems very feminine. He crosses his legs like a woman when he sits. His hair is long. He's wearing lipstick. And yes, I get it. He's Joker. He's supposed to wear makeup. But with the lisp of Joaquin Phoenix mixed with the feminine body language and the makeup and the hair dye, I'm telling you, I couldn't help but almost see him or not even almost, just see him as a trans Joker. I mean, he's skinny. He's wearing a suit jacket with shoulder pads. When he's asked to tell a joke in the most feminine voice that, and this is Walking Phoenix, that's saying something. The most feminine voice he can muster, he's like, knock, knock. And then he tells a non-joke and then admits to being the man who killed the three white guys on the train in the beginning of the film. And the whole time, by the way, he's batting his eyes. He's wriggling around in his chair like a woman. I mean, this is the one time I really wish I could show a clip from the film because it's impossible to miss once you see it. And I really find it hard to believe that no one else was thinking this when they saw it. And it's not just Walking Phoenix's lisp. I get it. He has that lisp in the whole rest of the film. And he doesn't sound like this. Okay? Although he does kind of do this weird prancing around dancey thing. Okay? That's a little, But now his voice is at least one octave higher. And he's giggling like he's thinking about being taken behind a dumpster after the show. So with the gayest cadence possible, he launches into this speech about how nobody wonders what it's like to be him, and that people are awful. And the host is also awful for wanting to ridicule him. And then he says, you know what you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash. You get what you fucking deserve. And then he executes on live television the late night talk show host, Robert De Niro, and then gets up and prances around in front of the camera like a little girl. After that, we see Joker staring out of the back window of a police car. He's been taken into custody. They're taking him in. And he's looking gleefully at all these Antifa riots that are going on. You know, people holding resist signs and burning trash cans, like literal Antifa riots going on outside. And before he's taken into prison, a bunch of Antifa wearing clown masks save him by ramming the police car and taking him out of the police car. So while he's surrounded by these chanting, mentally ill children of single moms worshiping trans Joker as they burn trash cans, trans Joker begins to prance and twirl around like a Tinkerbell princess. So, congratulations to the filmmaker Todd Phillips, whose real name is Todd Bunzy, a Jewish filmmaker from New York that used the media to trick people on the right into relating to a trans Antifa leader and in making the most accelerationist movie maybe of all time. And it really is. It is an accelerationist movie. Because really the only takeaway is that if you feel powerless, if you feel helpless, the answer, the solution to the problem, not just the solution, you'll be a hero if you just start murdering people. That's the big takeaway of the film. That said, another important takeaway from the film, aside from revealing how gullible some of the audience is that the public is so conditioned to see only heroes of color and single mom heroes simply by not using these cliche propaganda devices. You can rehash movie ideas that have been done to death in films for decades. And a lot of people will think you're being edgy. For BlackPilled, I'm Devin Stack. If you like my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you share. If you want to support my work, you can get a copy of my book. The link is in the description. You can also go to patreon.com/BlackPilled, subscribe star, or send crypto to one of the addresses below.